Let's take some viewer comments. In this video, I'm going to take some of your comments from my videos. I'm going to read them and we're going to talk about them up next. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of Orange Grove 55 with my special guest, Baby Yoda. So in this video, we are going to talk about viewer comments. I took a few, I selected a few comments from the past few videos I've done recently, and I'm going to read those comments and we're going to talk about them. So let's dive right in. And the first comment comes from Grant J. How about for a number 4? Now, just to kind of set the table and give you guys a little bit of context here, when he says number 4, what Grant is referring to is I recently did a video, link up above, about my top 3 annoying things that Disney park fans say. So when Grant says number 4, he's adding to my list essentially. And he goes on to say, Walt Disney World fans always trash talking Disneyland. All they care about is, quote, bigger is better, with 4 parks and so much space over Disneyland Resort's 2 parks and limited space to expand. It's that quantity over quality mentality that they think that there's no comparison. They even act like Disneyland shouldn't exist anymore. Okay, Grant, number one, the first thing I want to say right out the gate, the reason why a lot of Walt Disney World fans focus on the size of Walt Disney World is because literally that's all Walt Disney World has over the Disneyland Resort. And I'm not shit talking here. It's just the reality. You know, our parks at Disneyland have more rides per park. We have a bigger connection to Walt Disney than they do. So really what they have, the only thing they have to grasp on is that bigger, that the more land, the more acreage, the blessing of size. So that's why they focus on that, because that's the one thing that they have on top of Disneyland, right? Another thing here I really want to talk about, and look, when I say this, I want to make it very clear. This is not all Florida fans. I have a lot of friends, really close friends that are based in Florida. You know, my dear friend George, Disney Family Man 23, who's family to me. You know, he's a friend of the channel. He's family, and I have other friends too. A gentleman, Showcase of Wishes, who is a dear friend of mine, who's a Florida guy. Right? I want to make it very clear. This is not all Florida fans, but there is this weird kind of narrative with Walt Disney World fans in relation to Disneyland Resort. And when I say weird, it's like this weird kind of contradicting narrative. Like on one hand, they're very dismissive and condescending to Disneyland. It's, oh, you guys with your tiny little castle and your tiny little parks. Oh, you're so quaint. You're so cute. Oh yeah. You know, very condescending, right? But then like 2 minutes later, it's not fair. Be fair to Anaheim. Be fair to Florida. You know, Anaheim gets everything. Anaheim gets all the great stuff, and Florida gets all the scraps. And be fair to Florida. It's this really weird kind of juxtaposition where it's like they're condescending to Anaheim. They're like kind of like looking down on us, but then at the same time they're like, oh well, Anaheim gets everything, and they're Disney's favorite, so to speak. They're, you know, it's really strange, and I've seen this go on for years, for years and years and years, where it's just like this weird mix of condescending and jealousy, and I don't really understand it. Look, we're all Disney fans. If you live in Florida, if you live in Anaheim, we all love these parks. At the end of the day, let's just all hope that all the resorts get the love and the attention that they need. There's no need to like talk shit, you know, throw shade, be condescending, any of that. let's just hope that Disneyland Resort gets everything it needs, and let's hope that Florida Walt Disney Resort gets everything they need. And that includes the international parks, you know? But Grant, I mean, I see what you're saying here. I've noticed it too. I mean, there is a lot of trash talking, the coastal wars, as I call them, you know, it's in full effect. There definitely is that animosity, and it's weird. It's really, really weird. So hopefully that whole thing calms down. I doubt it. People are very territorial and tribal, and they don't. Hey, look, it's that football team mentality. You know, it's that team thing, right? Like my team is better than your team, kind of bullshit. You know, but I think we're stuck with it for the foreseeable future. But yeah, Grant, I understand your frustration because I see it too, and it drives me up the wall. And I'm sure a lot of Florida fans that are watching this see a lot of that stuff with our side of the equation with Disneylanders, and they probably have their qualms and issues too. So it really does come from both sides. But Grant, I feel you, brother. I understand where you're coming from. Thank you so much for the comment, sir. I do appreciate it. All right. And the next question comes, or not question really, comment comes from Eric L. And this video, to give you context, just like my last comment, this came from, again, the 3 annoying things that Disney park fans say video. Okay, so Eric L kind of added to that video saying, quote, "What Walt wouldn't have wanted this," end quote. "I love the man, but he also died more than 50 years ago." Eric, look, man, you make a really good point here. I agree with you, but I also disagree with you. What do I mean by that? Okay, so I agree with you. Walt Disney died 50 years ago, right? So to some degree, I think we shouldn't latch on to every word that he said. At the same time, he's still the founder of the company, and I think the company should still honor the overall vision for what he had for these movies and these theme parks. So what do I mean by that? Okay. So in terms of like overall vision, right? In terms of like the theme parks, he said he Disneyland, he wanted it to be an ever-changing, ever-evolving kind of entity. You know, as long as there's imagination left in the world, Disneyland will never be complete. And I think that in regards to these generalized kind of visions like that, you know, of the theme parks never being complete, of constantly changing, constantly evolving, I think that's kind of the direction that Disney should go in. You know, these kind of generalized things in terms of like even Walt Disney's focus on progress, Walt Disney's focus on technology and moving forward. All that stuff is really, really good stuff. And it really is the foundation for what the Walt Disney Company was founded on. And they should stick with it. Okay. And it's very generalized. So it's kind of an evergreen sort of philosophy, sort of an evergreen sort of blueprint. Now, I do agree with you though, Eric, when fans kind of get married or kind of too bogged down into this, like what Walt would or wouldn't have wanted when it comes to individual policies. I see this a lot when it comes to alcohol at the Disney parks. Walt didn't want alcohol in 1955. Therefore, the park should never have alcohol. Well, that's a very specific thing that was very much relevant to the social situation, you know, in America or whatever at that time. But times and society and social issues change. So it's not really relevant today. I mean, you know, the view on alcohol in theme parks is different in 2021 than it was in 1955. So I think Disney as a company should also kind of move and, kind of evolve and change with society, right? It kind of goes with smoking as well. Walt Disney had no problem with smoking at Disneyland. It was very normal, very commonplace at that time in the 1950s and 1960s. But I think a lot of fans now in 2021 would have an issue with people smoking at Disneyland and smoking in the restaurants and in the stores, right? In the shops. That would be a big issue. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like society has changed on their viewpoint for smoking. So that's the thing. You can't get too marred down, too bogged down into the details. Even like dress code. Look at how people dress now compared to how they dressed in 1955 when they were going to Disneyland. Like, do you really want to get married to every single thing Walt Disney wanted? Because look, you'd be dressing a whole lot differently going into Disneyland than you are now. You know, it was a very different situation. Guys were wearing khakis and slacks and button-up shirts, and women had high heels and what have you. It's a very different time. So to kind of wrap it up, Eric, yes, we shouldn't get bogged down in what Walt would or wouldn't have wanted in the specific policy sense. In terms of generalities, though, in terms of Disneyland being an ever-changing sandbox, in terms of Disney being a company that's constantly looking out for new technologies and progress, that generalized vision that Walt Disney laid out for us, I think that's the way to go. That's absolutely the way to go. So that's just my opinion. Eric L., thank you so much, brother, for your comment. That was a fantastic comment. Thank you, sir. And the next question comes from Rogue Disney. And Rogue Disney, friend of the channel, is saying this all seems... Now, actually, you know what? Let me set the table. Before we get into his comment, this was actually in regards to my recent Bob Chapek video, link up above. So I just want to let you guys know that. So Rogue Disney says, this all seems to be coming from the Hollywood side of things. What things that are happening right now actually have to do with Chapek, right? Genie Plus, yeah, but the disastrous media turns lately were all Iger's eggs coming to hatch. I think the theme park fans hate Chapek because he's making difficult decisions to increase revenue, and guess what? People are still flocking to the parks despite the lack of entertainment. We are still in a time of financial instability. Any CEO would be counting pennies right now. Look, Rogue, I agree with you, brother. 100% agree with you. I think this bald man bad, Chapek bad, everything he does bad, nonsense narrative is getting exhausting. Look, I don't love Bob Chapek. He wouldn't have been my first choice. Believe me, okay? But this whole notion that everything wrong, every problem you have with Disney or Disney parks right now is somehow a Bob Chapek thing is bullshit. And it's annoying. It really, really is. Look, you mentioned here what things are happening right now that have to actually do with Chapek. That's a good question. I'll be real with you, Rogue. When Bob Chapek ran the theme parks in 2015 to 2019, I don't know. It wasn't that bad. I don't know what these people are complaining about. We got some good stuff. We got some not so good stuff. But at the end of the day, it wasn't the end of the world. I really don't understand all the anger. I'm a huge Disney fan. I've been a Disney fan my entire life, a passionate Disney fan. And I look around the community with all this anger towards Bob Chapek, and I'm like, why am I not angrier? Should I not be more angry? Or something? I don't know. I'm really not. It's really, really strange. Even like you mentioned Genie Plus. I mean, yeah, you can technically blame that on Bob Chapek. He was, the head of the Parks and Resorts when Genie Plus was announced 2 years ago, right? In 2019. But Bob Iger was the CEO. Let's not forget, Bob Iger was the CEO when Genie Plus was announced at the D23 Expo in 2019. Did Bob Iger step in and tell Bob Chapek, no, we can't do Genie Plus? No, of course not. He let it move forward. All these complaints about boarding passes right now. Again, that was all stuff that started under Bob Iger in 2019 with the opening Galaxy's Edge. That was Bob Iger was the CEO of the Walt Disney Company when the boarding passes were starting to be implemented at Disney parks. Did Bob Iger get any blame for those boarding passes? Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. So it's interesting. All this stuff, you're right. It's a lot of Iger's eggs coming to hatch. A lot of stuff that fans despise right now were stuff that were really laid out and beta tested in the Iger era. Right? So, and then you also, you bring up some great points here, Rogue, where you said, I think theme park fans hate Chapek because he's making difficult decisions to increase revenue. And guess what? People are still flocking to the parks despite entertainment. We are still in a time of financial instability. Yeah, that's exactly the case. Look, not only did Disney take a gigantic hit with the pandy, with the lockdowns, with Newsom locking down theme parks for a year plus. But when the pandy hit and the lockdowns hit, Disney, the ink wasn't even dry on the Fox deal. Disney spent 70 plus billion with a B, billion with a B dollars on Fox. And then now they're coming, then they went right into basically all their core businesses being shut down for extended periods of time, the theme parks, the movies, all of that. Of course, the CEO is gonna make cuts. Of course, the CEO is gonna raise prices. Of course, a CEO is gonna do everything they can to keep this boat from sinking. Any CEO would have done that. If Bob Iger was still the CEO, you would have seen cuts. But of course, it's okay when Bob Iger does it because Bob Iger's good looking. Bob Iger's got charisma, so we give him a pass, just like Daddy Josh, just like Josh tomorrow. And I think that's crazy. I think a lot of this hate for Chapek stems from a cult of personality. They don't like Chapek's personality, so he's to blame for everything. And I think it's nonsense. I wish the community would be a little more intellectually honest and really put the blame towards where it should be, right? And really have more of an honest discussion in regards to this. But unfortunately, Rogue, a lot of fans don't do that. They want a bad guy. They want a villain to blame for everything. And Chapek is unfortunately that guy. So I think it sucks. And again, I want to say I'm not a huge Chapek fan. He wouldn't have been my first choice at all. But, he's certainly not the worst thing ever either. So that's where I stand on it. But that concludes, this video. I just wanted to do a little quick video in regards to, those are 3 fantastic questions. Or not even questions, really, just comments. And I wanted to read them and kind of discuss them. Comment down below with anything you have to talk about or add to this conversation in regards to Bob Chapek, in regards to Walt Disney World's fans' perspective of Disneyland, in regards to what Walt would have wanted or what Walt wouldn't have wanted. I would love to hear from you. Grogu right here would also love to hear from you. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, we do a lot of content here on OG55. We do everything from Disney news, entertainment, streaming, Disney Plus, the parks. We do not just do the parks. There is more to life than just the theme park. So I want to talk about all of it because I'm a Disney fan. I'm an entertainment fan. I like this stuff, and I don't want to just sit there and talk about Magic Keys all day. Okay, so let's talk about everything, right? Let's have a little variety, right? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. And as always, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.